Nano Machine. Bai, Ang Hong Guolya. Chapter 186. Face Off. Part 1. At a small restaurant near the Demonic Academy, there was a small room inside where only VIPs were allowed to enter. Chun Yeowun and his members were gathered there. Two men were looking at each other across the table. It was Chun Yeowun and Left Guardian Lee Hamming. They couldn't walk into the Demonic Academy in the bright daylight, so Lee Hamming had to come out. What? She went through body reconstruction? Lee Hamming was shocked beyond belief at Een Moha, who was standing beside Yeowun like a guard. He first was surprised by the beautiful woman standing next to Yeowun, whom he had not seen until now, and didn't think it was the 10th elder herself. It is amazing, he really did gain 10th elder in his rank. Lee Hamming too thought Yeowun would fail in getting Een Moha's approval. She was a weird and stubborn woman after all. But she went through body reconstruction and was now staying closely by Yeowun, so Lee Hamming was surprised by how things had turned out. "So Prince, what is that you want to know?" Lee Hamming asked, and Yeowun told the other members to stay outside the room. As they walked out, Yeowun continued speaking on the subject. "Left Guardian. Do you know who was the one who passed the 6th test 70 years ago? 70 years ago? Lee Hamming became surprised. After asking Een Moha for permission, Yeowun then explained what happened to Een Moha in recent years regarding the sword skill and Anonymous. After hearing everything, Lee Hamming became surprised. If what Yeowun had said was true, then this Anonymous was sure to have passed the 6th test and have learned the martial art of the sword demon. He even learned the sword force of the sky demon? What is it? It's been a long time, but the academy has a recording of every cadet who passed the test. Then you know? Prince. The one who passed the 6th test 70 years ago is the former lord, Chun Inji. Yeowun's eyes grew large. Chun Inji was the former lord of the cult and Chun, Yeowun's grandfather. He was considered the most powerful warrior in the past 500 years, and had enlarged the territory of the demonic cult larger than anyone else, and had fought against the forces of evil and justice. But there was one part Yeowun was surprised about. Chun Inji had gone missing about 20 years ago. Then who is this Anonymous? The man had learned 2 powerful sword skills stored within the vault and the Lord's palace. If they were to learn both skills, then they had to have entered the Lord's palace and also had passed the 6th test. They were all stumped. They heard the large sound of horns roaring through the entire castle of the cult. Hamming got up immediately and opened the window of the room. This meant only one thing. Prince. Yeowun nodded with a flash. The horn meant the return of the lord of the demonic cult. Everyone outside on the street began to become noisy. They're already here. The lord and their group, who were told to arrive about 2 weeks, had already returned to the cult. It's good that I worked quickly. Yeowun's quick action on getting approvals ahead had proved to be useful after all. There will be a parade for the lord's return out on the eastern gate. Will you go out to see? Lee Hamming offered Yeowun, and Yeowun thought for a second and nodded. He had to head to the palace for Lord's return ceremony anyway, as he was a new elder now, so it was better to start from watching the parade. Yeowun and members got out of the restaurant and headed for the east gate. As for Een Moha, she went to her mansion to pick up the skin mask that feigned her as her face before she went through body reconstruction. The Mountain of Thousand was located at the southern side of the Jianghu, so it required to walk through the northern gate to go there. But Lord and his group were told that they were coming from the east side instead. And when Yeowun's group got to the eastern gate, there were crowds of people gathered to watch the Lord's return. Returning of the Lord, who was the only one said to be able to communicate with the demonic god, was a symbolic being in the cult. Woa! Our Lord is back. He is back. Praise to the demonic cult. Cultists shouted with joy, and warriors above the horse as they walked through waved at cultists. So, it begins. Lee Hamming whispered to Yeowun. If the Lord is back, then it meant other elders were back too. This meant the beginning of the war for Yeowun. Prince? But Yeowun was looking at only one place. In the middle of the parade, there was a black carriage, decorated with red silk and had the word sky embroidered over it. Lord. It was an open carriage, but the decorations and jewelry hid the face inside. It was the parade of King's March. Warriors walked through valiantly and cultists cheered and chanted. It was a moment of glory, but Yeowun looked coldly. That's when Yeowun became surprised. Left Guardian Lee Hamming too was surprised. In front of the black carriage, Great Guardian Marakim was walking ahead on a horse, and Right Guardian Submang was behind the carriage. But something was off. Teacher? He was in formal clothing unlike his regular outfits, but his face was pale and his right eye was wrapped around with linen wrapping also with over his head, as if he was injured. Why? And Yeowun realized there were more people injured. After the carriage, warriors from other clans began walking in along with other elders. They were clothed in lavish clothing, but it couldn't hide their injuries. What happened? Elders came in beginning from the first elder. They seemed fine until the third elder, but starting from the fourth elder, they were heavy with injuries. What? And with the fifth elder Hang Soyu, her left arm seemed to be missing under her clothes. And elders, which should be 8 that returned, one person was missing. Mun Ku sighed in relief as she saw her exhausted grandfather Mun Yun, still waving at cultists who cheered for them. Soon, the crowd then realized something was strange and began to mumble between themselves. I don't see the seventh elder. Seventh elder, Kong Sunong was missing from the parade. Li Hamming had to stay behind as he was the chief of the academy, so he wasn't told of the mission's purpose. In usual cases, this much number of warriors would require constant contact with cult, but it was put to complete secret this time. So it was only after the Lord's group reached proximity to the mountain, when Huani realized they were returning. Well, we'll get to know soon. It was secret until now, but since they were now here, it was going to be found out. It's strange. I can't see them. Man looking in his mid-30th looked around from above the horse, scanning through crowds, and he couldn't find people he was looking for. He was the leader of the Wise clan, and the first elder, Mu Jinwan. In normal circumstances, members from the Wise clan should have come out to greet the return of the Lord and the elders, but they were nowhere to be seen. There were other wives of other lords, but he couldn't find anyone from the Wise clan. Is there something going on? Crowds cheering the return looked very normal. He figured it was probably nothing much, as close to half of the clan's warriors were left behind, but he came to a certain concern. Huh? Master, look at that. Chapter 187. Face Off. Part 2. Hubong then pointed toward the back of the parade. Yeowun and his members became surprised at the ones following from behind. They wore different clothes, and the letter the flag showed was clearly who they were. Yulin clan. These people were from the Yulin clan, the largest group from the forces of justice. It was the first time in the cult's history where members from justice walked into the castle. Crowds began to grow noisy. What is this? Yulin clan? Didn't the ambassadors come last time? And unlike the last time, there was a large number of them entering the gate. Crowds then began to boo and taunt at members of Yulin clan. Boo! And warriors from Yulin clan too looked very nervous and tense. Within them, there were multiple other clan flags from the forces of justice. At the center, there were 2 carriages covered with golden clothes, that showed that important members were in it. Oh, it's very interesting, I see. Ugh. Hubong was surprised by the sudden voice coming from his side. It was Huani, the 11th elder who appeared. Huani had many spies over all places of the world, so it seemed he had a guess of who and what these were. Do you know what's going on? Yeowun asked and Huani shook his head. It's not clear, but maybe we might side with the Yulin clan this time. Side with the Yulin clan? Li Hamming asked back surprisingly. For the past 50 years, the cult had waged fierce war against the Yulin clan. There was no severe fight in recent 5 years, but they were still very hostile against each other. Well, we'll hear what's really going on at the palace. Members of the Yulin clan were allowed to enter the castle in front of every cultist. It was sure that the Lord's palace was going to announce something to the cultists. When everyone got into the castle gate closed and the crowd followed the parade into the Lord's palace. But things turned out differently from expectation. Members of Yulin clan were escorted inside to the guest house at the inner palace, and First Elder, Mu Jinwan got up on the stage and shouted. Greetings, fellow cultists of the demonic cult. It's me, First Elder Mu Jinwan. Cultists became confused when Mu Jinwan, instead of the Lord, got up on the stage. When the crowd became silent, Mu Jinwan shouted in a large voice. I first want to thank all of you who cheered for our Lord's return. The Lord is very exhausted from the long trip, so please gather back here tomorrow afternoon for his announcement. For the ambassadors from the Yulin clan who entered the castle, please consider them as our guests, they were formally invited. It is the Lord's order. Mu Jinwan then bowed and walked down the stage. So, the announcement of what was going on was postponed to tomorrow. What is going on? Why did they invite the Yulin clan here? Damn it, he didn't say anything. Cultists noisily talked about their speculations and soon scattered. There were multiple questions, but there was no way to find out until tomorrow. And when people began to return to their homes, short horns sounded 3 times, signaling the summoning of all elders, leaders of clans, and guardians into the palace. I guess we have the grand meeting first. Huani spoke and Yeowun nodded. He was now allowed to enter the grand meeting formally, and sit together as equals with the other elders. We'll wait at the restaurant near the palace. Only elders, guardians, and clan leaders were allowed, so Yeowun's members weren't allowed in. Okay. Please take care of this. Yes, master. The inner palace required weapons to be left behind, so Yeowun asked Hu Bong to carry his white dragon blade and the sword created from cold steel. He then walked into the inner palace with Li Hamming and Huan. Inside the inner palace, there were many large buildings, and across from the lord's residence, there was a large building made just for the grand meeting. The building was a lavishly decorated hall, with chairs placed so that people could sit down in ranks. The throne at the farthest inside was the lord's throne that sat toward the crowd, and there were 12 elder seats that placed down to look at each other. Other clan leaders were located towards the outside. 7 elders who just returned were already in their seats, and clan leaders began entering to sit down in the empty seats. All leaders from high-ranking clans sat down in front row seat, and the other clan leaders sat behind. 9th elder, entering the hall. When the elders entered, guards at the entrance shouted to alert everyone. Welcome. It's been a long time, Elder Sama. All clan leaders got up and greeted 9th Elder Sama E. The grand meeting didn't happen that often, so it was a good chance for clan leaders to get a chance to talk with the elders. After a few minutes, most clan leaders got in and sat down on the chairs. And with the lord who was going to enter with the 3 guardians, everyone else was now here. The only one that hadn't arrived yet besides the lord and 3 guardians were the 10th, 11th, and 12th elders. 3 elders are late. Well, he won't be happy, so we'll have to understand. Hang Soyu, the 5th elder and leader of the Lust clan, spoke with frown, and the 4th elder, and leader of Loyal clan, Jakinkang, laughed and responded. Jakinkang was talking about Beko. Beko was a member of the 6 clans, but was pushed down to the 12th elder, and couldn't join the trip. That's when the guard at the gate shouted. 10th elder, 11th elder, 12th elder, entering the hall. 3 elders entered at once, and Hang Soyu shook her head. Does he made friends with low-ranking elders while he's there? And with the gate being opened, 3 men walked in. Everyone then turned to the 3 elders coming in. Huh? What? All elders who sat on the high-ranking chairs frowned. They expected Beko to be walking in with his staff, and the one who entered instead, while having 2 other elders on both sides, was Chun Yeowun. How can he? Hang Soya knew Chun Yeowun's face clearly. She had seen him in the first test in the Demonic Academy years ago. Yeowun had turned into an adult, but he still had the same face from when he was a teenage boy. Yeowun then walked up to the elders who were lost for words and bowed. Greetings, elders. I am new 12th elder, Chun Yeowun. Chapter 188. Face Off. Part 3. What? 12th elder? 7 elders tried hard to stay calm, but their faces were shocked and in disbelief. The 12th elder they know was Beko. But Yeowun, who had entered the grand hall, claimed himself as an elder. Where is Beko? Why is he? Wait. Did he pass the 6th test? They then realized what had happened while they were gone. The only way for Chun Yeowun, who was a cadet of the academy, to become an elder was to pass the 6th test and defeat another elder. Yeowun had taken the Beko's seat by defeating him. So, clan leaders knew this. The news of the 6th test already had swept through the entire castle, so all clan leaders knew that Yeowun had defeated Beko and didn't seem surprised. But they too seemed astounded by a young man standing proudly in front of powerful elders. Was it why I couldn't find anyone from the Poison clan? Mujinvan frowned. He had scanned through the crowds on his way in, so he realized that people from Poison clan was also missing. He thought it was an act of protest for the demotion of Beko, but it was not. So, he's Chun Yeowun? He's the one who cut my grandson's arm? How dare, that peasant born. Elders from Sword, Blade and Lust clan glared at Yeowun, as their princes had lost their arms at Yeowun's action. If this wasn't the grand hall of the demonic cult, they would have unleashed their anger again. But they couldn't do it, as that meant they had undermined the Lord's authority and dignity and be punished. The hall turned quiet at the heavy atmosphere full of emotions. Do you think we'll approve of you? Fool. You may have walked in here, but you are still alone. Elders from 6 clans then stayed silent, not responding to Yeowun's greeting, and the air turned cold. Other clan leaders who greeted other elders also fell silent. Hang Soya then smirked. You may have got up here with luck, but that is far as you go. No one will approve you as an elder. Standing up for Yeowun here meant that person was going to turn his back against the 6 clans. This was the act to show power over Yeowun. But it didn't go as their plan. A large man got up from his seat and greeted Chun Yeowun politely. Leader of the Demon Fist clan, Ko Wangin. Welcome, Prince Chun. Yeowun then turned around at Ko Wangin and bowed. Greetings. Demon Fist clan? How dare? Hang Soyu raised her eyebrows and glared at Ko Wangin, who broke the silence created by elders. But it was just the start. The man who sat next to Ko Wangin, who looked very gentle, got up and bowed. Che Takjing, from the Westgate clan. Welcome, Prince Chun. Greetings. What? With 2 leaders from high-ranking clan greeted, Hang Soyu and other elders frowned. But someone else also got up. Ho Sanjin from Power Axe clan. We finally meet, Prince. Great to see you, Mr. Ho. W what? And more leaders got up to greet to Yeowun. After high-ranking clan leaders all got up and greeted Yeowun, other clan leaders from lower-ranking clans got up and bowed. What is going on? Are they trying to turn their back against us? Look at all those people. Elders then turned cold. There were over 50 clan leaders who got up to greet Yeowun. And even then, there were still more people getting up. The number was already at about 1/3 of entire clan leaders inside the hall. Ko Wanger, Hubong. Yeowun smiled. He wished to come in contact with as many as he can, but he didn't expect this much number of leaders will respond. Ko Wanger and Hubong did not meet other clan leaders by themselves. This was the result of cadets who were expelled from the academy earlier, asking their fathers to back Chun Yeowun. Chun, Yeowun. Hang Soyu gritted her teeth. This was the result of what had happened at the Demonic Academy's competition. What had happened while we were gone? Elders from 6 clans looked shocked. To them, Chun Yeowun was nothing. Wives of the Lord thought of Yeowun as an enemy, due to his mother being Lady Hua, but to them, he was merely an insect that can be taken care of any time. They didn't think such a being will create such strike back. They felt threatened by the man called Chun Yeowun for the first time. That's when guards shouted from behind. Here comes the Lord. And the man with black clothes with golden dragon embroider entered, and everyone got up and fell to their one knee. Glory to the demonic cult. First elder shouted and continued. We, mere cultists, are honored to see the Lord of the demonic cult. We are honored. With entering of Chun Yuzhong, the heir turned instantly. Chun Yuzhong raised his hand after he sat down on the throne, and the man with a strange mask, Great Guardian Marakim, shouted. You may seat. Glory to the demonic cult. All the people shouted again and sat down on their chairs. With 7th elder, missing, Yeowun sat down on the 11th elder's seat and turned to Chun Yuzhong. His sharp eyes looked like that of Yeowun, but the atmosphere was different. Chun Yuzhong looked as if he arrogantly looked down upon everything. He was like an emperor overall here. But there was one thing that he couldn't hide. His breathing is not well. It was close, so Yeowun was able to tell that the Lord's breathing was very slightly unstable. It was sure that he had taken internal damage. But he looked well, so it was probably less severe than other elders. The Lord and elders all were injured. Lord and elders meant that they were enough to wipe out most forces. Then what was the purpose of their secret trip? Yeowun then turned to the man standing on the right side of the Lord. Teacher, what happened? The one who stood right on the Lord was Right Guardian Submeng. He looked pale and had covered his right eye with linen wrap, and looked in bad shape. But unlike Yeowun, who was concerned, Submeng, who found him, turned his eye large. What? H. How? Chapter 189. Face Off. Part 4. Submeng's pale face brightened up. It felt like all the hardship he had gone through on the recent trip had melted down when he saw his only apprentice at this place. Submeng grinned and Yeowun also smiled. The teacher and apprentice had finally met at such an important place. Haha, I guess I can't call you a kid anymore. Submeng was touched. And from what he can see, it was sure that Yeowun had grown much stronger than himself now. Chun Yeowun, who was looking at Submeng, then turned to the Lord at the sharp energy coming through. Chun Yuzhong, who was not looking at him until moments ago, was now looking straight into him. His eye is like a sword. It was the first time he had felt such threatening aura. The Lord didn't mention, but it was sure that he too was surprised to find Chun Yeowun here. My lord. Marakim spoke, and Chun Yuzhong raised his hand, signaling of approval. Marakim then shouted at the people. We will start the grand meeting. With the start, Marakim called out the 9th elder. Sama-i then got up. 9th elder, you may report what happened in the cult while the Lord was out. Yes, my lord. Sama-e was the highest-ranking elder while others were gone, so he had to report first on what happened until now. Sama-e then explained everything that happened. This procedure wasn't actually necessary, but this was done to show the authority of the Lord. It was done so that clan leaders can see the Lord solving the issue that was still revolving around and have them feel the authority of the Lord. But Sama-e's report actually worked against it this time. After briefing through financial and structural issues, Sama-e reported of recent incidents. So, the remaining Poison Clan and Wise Clan fought against each other. There are no survivors in either clan. People began to mumble between themselves. With the rumor being spread out, clan leaders who stayed behind at the cult knew of what happened, but those who went outside was shocked. This was a serious incident. The Poison Clan was now entirely gone, and members from the Wise Clan were also killed. And among them was the Lady Mu, wife of the Lord. Mu Jinwon turned cold. "My sister is dead?" He was concerned when he didn't see people from the Wise Clan, but he didn't even imagine such an incident had happened. It was hard to hold back his emotions. He wanted to shout to Baek-oh, the leader of Poison Clan, but even he had died from Yeowun's hand at the 6th test. "This is impossible, my sister will never." Lady Mu was a cunning woman. She was good at strategy and never fought a losing battle. It didn't make sense that she entered the Poison Clan and got killed. But if what Sama-e reported was true, what happened was very possible. Sama-e reported that the reason for two clans to fight was because of Mu Jinyun and Chun Muyun killing the Poison Clan's Baek-churku. How can this be? And as for the evidence, the body had a trace of right sword left hand on it. The only one who can use the skill was Mu Jinwon himself and Chun Muyun. With this, Poison Clan became angered and ambushed the Poison Clan, but they lost most of their forces, and Wise Clan, who tried to wipe out the Poison Clan, was countered by Poison Clan's poisonous trap and was wiped out. There was nothing too suspicious about how everything had happened, and it was hard to consider that it was someone else's plan. Mu Jinwon became furious and grabbed on the chair's armrest, and the armrest crushed. It wasn't something to be allowed in the Grand Hall, but he had lost his family who stayed behind, so the Lord didn't say anything. That woman died from a mere trap from the Poison Clan? Unlike Mu Jinwon, who couldn't hold back his fury, the Lord thought it through coldly. Even when he heard that his first wife, Lady Mu, was dead, he didn't show any change in emotion. When Sama-e almost finished his reporting, elders from 5 remaining clans were looking at each other with a hostile look. It was natural as they heard that their sons and grandsons had fought against each other and all died, resulting to fight between clans. "It's amazing." Lee Hamming was astounded as he watched. With the report being made in front of all clan leaders, Yeowun's plan had turned to great success. Only remaining report was now one. From the Demonic Academy, Elder Chun Yeowun had passed the 6th test and had become new 12th Elder. This test is done while the Lord had been missing, so I ask you to appoint him formally as the new Elder. Everyone then turned to Chun Yeowun. Elders were only appointed by the Lord himself. But the Lord was missing, so Yeowun was only given the medal. "I object." Hang Soyu, who was furious as ever, after hearing her son had died in the academy, got up. "This is a grand meeting, not a, I approve." "Ugh." But the Lord cut her off and spoke. Hang Soyu couldn't say anything, and Chun Yujong got up from his throne and spoke to Chun Yeowun. "Chun Yeowun, you may come up to me." Yeowun then got up from his seat and walked up confidently and knelt on his one knee in front of the Lord. The Lord then declared in front of everyone, "As the 23rd Lord of the Great Demonic Cult, I appoint Chun Yeowun as the 12th Elder. You shall serve the cult with your life." "Yes, my lord." Yeowun answered, and Chun Yujong looked down at his son. The boy, who was just a card to be used to unleash his own anger, had got up from the bottom and was in front of him now. It was truly astonishing. Chun Yujong then spoke to Yeowun. "Do you have something to say?" With becoming of the Elder was allowed to ask for one thing, if it was possible. But this was just a regular procedure and was asking to speak of how it felt. Yeowun then got up and asked the Lord, "Please approve me as the heir to the throne." "What?" The Lord didn't expect this coming and raised his eyebrows. And at that moment, Sama-e, In-moha, and Hwani all got up from their seat and came up behind Yeowun and knelt and shouted, "Please approve Prince Chun Yeowun as the heir to the throne." 5 elders who were watching uncomfortably at Yeowun becoming elder, became shocked and grimaced. Chapter 190. Face Off. Part 5. Please approve me as the heir to the throne. With Chun Yeowun's unexpected request, everyone within the Grand Hall became shocked. Those who were most shocked were elders from 5 clans. They were uncomfortable about Yeowun becoming an elder, and became even furious when Yeowun asked for approval to become the heir. Damn it. He aimed for this. Yeowun had gone for a chance to request the Lord. And there were 3 elders who were behind Yeowun. They were surely approving of Yeowun. Since when he persuaded them? In Moha? Huan Yi? Aside from Sama Yi, In Moha and Huan Yi were known for their unruly nature and stubbornness. But both of them were now on their knees and asking for Yeowun's ascension to the future lord. I have to stop. But elders from 5 clans had no reason or way to stop this from happening. And with all clan leaders within the cult looking at them, they couldn't just object out of emotion without being ridiculed after. Damn it, there is no way. Yeowun had defeated all competitors in the competition and also gathered approval from 3 elders. With the Lord's approval, he was now going to be appointed as the new heir to the throne. Elders were fools to think that they can get rid of Yeowun anytime. If the Lord approves it, then. This was the worst-case scenario. If one not from the 6 clans were to succeed the throne, then it was going to be the downfall of 6 clans. Everyone turned to the Lord. Chun Yuzhong looked surprised. Is he really the boy I once knew? Chun Yuzhong was astounded by Chun Yeowun. When Yeowun first appeared as an elder, he was surprised of the child who was not even in his slightest concern, growing powerful in a short time. But now, Chun Yuzhong was astounded by Yeowun's smart moves. Yeowun was bowing respectfully, but his eyes were full of confidence as he looked up to the Lord. It wasn't the young, vengeful boy who Yuzhong once saw on the first day of the demonic academy. So, you want to succeed my throne? The atmosphere had become tense with everyone focusing on the Lord. Chun Yuzhong then opened his mouth. Are 3 of you approved the 7th prince as the heir? Chun Yuzhong asked and people turned bright and frustrated at the same time. Those who sided with Chun Yeowun brightened and elders and clan leaders who sided with 6 clans frowned. Chun Yeowun was now an elder, but as he was called as the 7th prince, it meant that Chun Yuzhong was officially considering him as a candidate to the throne. I, Sama Yi the 9th elder, approve Prince Chun Yeowun as the heir to the throne. I, In Moha the 10th elder, approve Prince Chun Yeowun as the heir to the throne. I, Huan Yi the 11th elder, approve Prince Chun Yeowun as the heir to the throne. And with their determined voice, Chun Yuzhong looked at each of them. It seemed these 3 elders truly approved Chun Yeowun as the heir, and they didn't seem to care about 6 clans. Maybe this might be a better way. An heir that wasn't related to the 6 clans. It wasn't what Chun Yuzhong had been planning, but he decided that this too didn't seem too bad. The Lord then nodded and decided. As he was going to speak out his decision, a sharp, hostile aura came to his senses. It wasn't only Chun Yuzhong who felt this. Everyone felt the hostile energy and turned to the source. At first elder? The source was the first elder and leader of the Wise clan, Mu Jinwon. He was glaring at Chun Yeowun with bloodshot eyes, with veins popping up over his forehead due to fury. He had been in shock ever since he heard that his family members were killed, and he didn't care about anything else now. He dare asks to be appointed as the heir at this moment? Just up until the Lord and elders left the cult's castle, Chun Muyun was very close to the heir. With other princes from each clan were expelled, Mu Jinwon believed that Chun Muyun will become the heir with not much of an issue. But when he returned, he found out that everyone from his clan had died while he was gone. Chun Muyun too, had committed crime inside the academy, escaped from the prison and eventually was found dead within the mansion of the Poison clan. From what Mu Jinwon can see, Lady Mu nor Chun Muyun was not foolish enough to do such foolish thing right before the competition was almost over. Both of them had died with a mistake that they would never have made, and Chun Yeowun became sole competitor, and requested to be appointed as the heir as if he waited for it. With this, Mu Jinwon could only think of one culprit for his suspicion. Chun Yeowun. Chapter 191. Face Off. Part 6. He didn't care about evidence anymore. With every emotion and thought heading to Chun Yeowun, Mu Jinwon wanted to rip Chun Yeowun apart right at this moment. Left Guardian Li Hamming and Right Guardian Submang quickly stood up against Mu Jinwon, and Great Guardian Mara Kim stood in front of the Lord. Hamming pulled out the red flame sword and aimed at Mu Jinwon. Submang also pulled out his crazy blade. Only ones who were allowed to wield weapons in the Great Hall were 3 guardians and the Lord. Step back, First Elder. You should behave in front of the Lord. Hamming and Submang warned, but Mu Jinwon did not back down and spoke in a furious voice. Do you think I would not recognize your schemes? He was talking to Chun Yeowun, who was behind the guardians. Mu Jinwon glared at Yeowun, who was kneeling down on his one knee. Chun Yeowun then turned to his left and saw the First Elder in his chair. You. First Elder's eyes shook with rage as he met his eyes with Yeowun. Yeowun did not make any expression, but his eye looked as if he was taunting, glaring back at Mu Jinwon. Mu Jinwon exploded with anger and tried to get up. Enough. The Lord warned threateningly. It was simple and low voice, but the energy wielded within the voice was bottomless and pushed down Mu Jinwon. Ugh. Mu Jinwon then snapped out of his anger and realized he was within the great halls. He couldn't do anything further without having the Lord to become angry. Mu Jinwon brought back his aura and bowed at the Lord and shouted, "I have made a grave mistake to the Lord Almighty. Please forgive my foolishness." He then began pounding his head on the ground. And when he began pounding multiple times, so that blood began to run through his head, Chen Yuzhong retrieved the energy that pressured on Mu Jinwon. Mu Jinwon's face was drenched in blood. Chen Yuzhong looked down at Mu Jinwon coldly and ordered him to stop. "Return to your seat. Thank you, Lord, for your everlasting mercy." Mu Jinwon bowed again and backed away into his seat. Li Hamming then returned his sword and two guardians turned toward the Lord again. Mu Jinwon wiped his face with his clothes and glared back at Chen Yeowun. "I will find out everything and rip you apart with my own hands." If he was to be angry and kill Chen Yeowun here, it was going to work against him too. He had lost half of his family already, so he couldn't lose any more. That's when Mu Jinwon heard unexpected telepathic message coming through his ear. "First Elder. What you suspect is true. It's not the Poison Clan. It was me. It was Chen Yeowun." It was a direct provocation. When Mu Jinwon looked at Yeowun with shaking eyes, he saw Yeowun with an evil smile. Mu Jinwon's temper he barely controlled, had snapped. "Ao Warg. I will kill you." Mu Jinwon then charged and bolted against Chen Yeowun. "What?" Li Hamming turned back and quickly charged at Mu Jinwon to stop, but Mu Jinwon was one stage higher in the strength. "Don't get in my way." Mu Jinwon's left hand used the wise hand formation and pushed back Li Hamming into the pillar. Mu Jinwon was at the end stage of superior master level, and Mu Jinwon was also stronger in power of formation. Damn it. Li Hamming cursed as he got up from the ground and tried to attack again, but Mu Jinwon's blue force chi wielded finger was already striking down upon Chen Yeowun. He was using the most powerful formation within the True Demon Sword. As In Moha said, Mu Jinwon knew True Demon Sword too. Mu Jinwon had realized that Chen Yeowun was at an equal level of his power just when he saw, so that was why he was using his best attack skill he had. It's amazing formation. Since when Elder Mu learned such powerful sword skill? Everyone was shocked at Mu Jinwon's use of powerful sword skill. The Lord was also very shocked. He didn't think Mu Jinwon had his secret sword skill that was almost equal in power to the sword art of the Sky Demon. Is that really the True Demon Sword? In Moha also frowned in shock. The True Demon Sword formation used by the strongest warrior of the cult was much more powerful than it should have been. The powerful sword formation unleashed upon Yeowun. He's strong. Yeowun narrowed his eyes as he faced off against the strongest sword formation he had saw. Yeowun's finger shined in blue force chi. To counter the True Demon Sword that was perfected Mu Jinwon's way, it was better to use 24 Demon Sword, which was a higher version. With Yeowun's finger moving forward, two force chi of powerful warriors collided. Chapter 192. Face Off. Part 7. With two force chi colliding, an explosive sound filled the Great Hall. Yeowun's formation was the third formation of the 24 Demon Sword. With 24 sword movements being combined, its power became like a storm. "It's impossible. He's blocking it." Everyone was shocked to see Chen Yeowun blocking against Mu Jinwon's powerful sword skill that no one thought it was possible to defend against. "This, is a 24 Demon Sword?" Mu Jinwon frowned. The formation that Yeowun was using was the formation that Anonymous once showed. How did he learn the sword skill? Mu Jinwon was surprised, but he quickly used the formation of True Demon Sword in his right hand to fight against 24 Demon Sword, and thrust his left. The formation used by the left finger was the Wise Sword skill. Powerful sword skill came through the 24 Demon Sword and countered it. Ugh. Yeowun was struck on his shoulder and stomach and was pushed back. Right sword, left sword. Clan leaders shouted as they realized what Mu Jinwon had just done. Mu Jinwon was known for his ability to use both of Wise Clan's martial art with his both hands at the same time. With two hands working separately to use each martial art, it gave Mu Jinwon the power to attack as if there were two of him. Yeowun frowned at the pain coming from his wound. If it wasn't for his energy barrier, the force chi would have penetrated him. Yeowun's clothes stained from the blood. Self-healing activated at the wounded area. Nano's voice came in his head as his wound began to heal. It was hidden under the clothes, but the healing was quick. Phew. The pain had lifted quickly. Yeowun expected this, but Mu Jinwon was much stronger than he thought. He had used 2 different sword formation in his both hands and countered Yeowun's 24 demon sword. It's not an easy foe. Mu Jinwon was not a foe to consider lightly. I have to be quick. And for Mu Jinwon, he didn't lose his chance and charged in to kill Yeowun. If he was to waste time, the Lord or other elders was going to jump in and he will lose his chance to kill Yeowun. He had to finish this soon. I will kill you. Mu Jinwon knew how powerful 24 demon sword was, so he used the best of his ability to use sword formations on both hands. If Yin Moha had completed the first formation of 24 demon sword, Mu Jinwon had created a new skill with his understanding. On my left, last formation of the true demon sword. On my right hand, first formation of the 24 demon sword. 2 sword formation unleashed from his both hands and everyone became shocked. Is First Elder a monster? How did he learn such formation? Mu Jinwon's formation just now was powerful enough, but this was beyond imagination. His best skill, created with the combination of sword demons strike to fight against blade god, was amazing. He can't block this. Even if it's 24 demon sword. Yin Moha turned pale. She knew the power of 24 demon sword, so she thought Chun Yeowun had no chance to defend himself against this attack. This is for my sister, my nephew, and my families. Mu Jinwon glared. He was certain that even the Lord would not block his attack. This skill was made to fight against Anonymous, a mysterious warrior. If 24 demon sword doesn't work, Yeowun glared. And it was the moment when sharp force chi was about to rip apart Yeowun's body. Blade, chi. Yeowun's hand was now being wielded in blue force chi of blade. His hand then unleashed explosive power of blade formation and struck against Mu Jinwon's skill. Huan Yi's eye turned large with shock. It's that skill. It was the shocking blade skill that Yeowun used when he fought against Huan Yi. Yeowun's hand moved in strange angle and created powerful blade moves that overpowered through every sword formation that Mu Jinwon's both hands used. Mu Jinwon frowned. What is this? This is impossible. The blade came from impossible angles. It wasn't something that Mu Jinwon can react to normally. Ugh. His left hand was thrown back from the powerful blade chi and his body shook. Chun Yeowun did not lose this chance and moved on to the last formation of the blade god. He didn't know the name of this formation, but he called it this way. Flying Dragon. With Yeowun's body spinning up from below, blade swirled up like a tornado and Mu Jinwon's body was swept into the force chi of blade. He shot up to the air through sharp blade chi. And no. Mu Jinwon tried to get out of it by using force chi over his hand, but he couldn't even move in the prison of blade chi. I have to defend myself. Mu Jinwon then focused his energy to create energy barrier. That's when the storming blade chi came down upon him. And my energy barrier. The blade chi that came down upon him ripped apart the energy barrier itself, and when Mu Jinwon twisted his body, trying to avoid being struck, blade chi cut down into him. Aowawarg. With Mu Jinwon's terrified scream filling the great hall, Mu Jinwon's body ripped apart into pieces in the air. And when the screaming stopped, his bodies dropped to the ground like pieces of meat. Everyone turned silent at once. All people who had gathered at the great halls were shocked beyond relief and was watching Chun Yeowun with tense and disbelief. Chapter 193. Face Off. Part 8. Mu Jinwon, one of 3 most powerful warriors along with the Lord and Great Guardian Marakim, died tragically and shocked everyone in the Great Hall. Clan leaders that sided with Chun Yeowun wanted to cheer in joy, but they couldn't make any noise, so they just held back their excitement. And Chun Yeowun's blade skill that countered almost impossible sword skill used by Mu Jinwon shocked them all. By the gods! He beat the First Elder. Is this true? I didn't even know such blade skill exists. And one who got attention was Right Guardian Submang. It was widely known that Right Guardian Submang was the one who had taught Yeowun how to use a blade. Submang coughed as he felt people watching him. But it was Submang himself who was shocked by Yeowun's blade skill. Since when he learned such powerful blade skill? He didn't want to accept, but the one used by Yeowun was much stronger than Butterfly Dance Blade. He was only astounded by it. But, that blade skill. It's familiar. It was strange. He had never seen such powerful blade skill, yet it looked familiar. That wasn't only for Submang. Left Guardian Li Hamming was so shocked that he was lost for words. If he hadn't opened the underground treasure vault for Yeowun, he would not have realized it, but he saw the tracing left by that blade skill. B-blade skill from the blade god. The skill that was used was exactly the same skill that made the tracing on preserved bodies inside the vault. It was just the trace, but the power emanating from its tracing was mesmerizing, so Lee Hemming knew it well. He didn't just study it, but learned the blade skill itself? How can this be? Is it really possible to learn the martial art just by looking at the trace left on the body? Lee Hemming was shocked beyond belief and began to shake with excitement. Starting with Father Chun Ma's finding of truth, does his talent truly given from the sky? Lee Hemming thought his choice wasn't wrong. He was now sure that Chun Yeowun was the new sky demon who will reborn the demonic cult. Left Guardian. Lee Hemming then heard Marikim's telepathic message and flinched. Marikim's eye was looking through his mask, down at Mu Jinwon's scattered body pieces. We'll talk later. Yes, sir. Lee Hemming had to speak with Marikim about Chun Yeowun anyway. He too was the one who succeeded Will of the Sword Demon. This is amazing that you used this event to this extent. Prince, you have shown yourself well in front of all clan leaders. 11th Elder, Huan Yi thought that Chun Yeowun had done a good job, not only in defeating the First Elder, but creating such a situation. It was apparent that his action had done a great effect on clan leaders, as they were still dumbfounded from what just happened. Well, you took care of the first leader, so rest is with me. Mu Jinwon himself was very powerful, but his remaining forces from the Wise clan was also comprised of highly trained warriors. I should see if there is a way to bring them into our prince's fold. Those were too valuable soldiers to get rid of. If it was possible to have them join, it was going to be a powerful asset to their forces. Huan Yi needed to do it faster before the other 4 clans reach out to gather them on their own. I wonder what the Lord might be thinking. And for the Lord, Chen Yuzhong, he didn't look all that happy about what just happened. He first thought Yeowun was interesting, but it changed his mind now. He heard that Yeowun had defeated Baek-oh, so he expected Yeowun to be strong, but this was beyond his expectation. He is more than I expected. The first formation of attack used by Mu Jinwon was an ambush, so there was no use, but the Lord could have blocked Mu Jinwon's continued attack. But he didn't do anything, intending to stop just before Yeowun will get killed. But with this rate of growth, it seemed even enough to be within the top 5 warriors of the Jianghu within 10 years. He have grown stronger and is becoming my threat. That wasn't welcome. The card was only useful when it can be used as a card. This incident made Chun Yuzhong to look closely at Chun Yeowun. That's when someone broke the silence and shouted. It was Hang Soyu, the 5th Elder. Oh dare! How dare you kill First Elder in Great Hall with our Lord present? She hesitated at Chun Yeowun's frightening power, but she decided she had to raise her voice with this. According to the law of the cult, killing another elder in front of the Lord was not acceptable. Elder Hang is right. How dare you do such thing? Elder Chun Yeowun should fall before the Lord and confess his sin. 4th Elder Jakinkang got up and shouted. If they didn't make this as a problem, then it was only going to help Chun Yeowun. If they claim that Yeowun had ignored the Lord's authority, then the Lord will need to respond to it. We can't let him become the heir. Chapter 194. Face Off. Part 9. Chun Yeowun had grown so powerful not only in his power, but in his forces. If he becomes the heir, it will be the wing that will make him soar. Ugh. When Chun Yeowun glared at them with cold eyes, Hang Soyu and Jakinkang looked away without realizing. They instinctively felt fear from the difference in power. Chun Yeowun then knelt down on his one knee and spoke to the Lord. I unintentionally made a crime in the Great Hall, to protect myself from being harmed. Please have mercy, my lord. Look at his arrogant words. Hang Soyu bit on his lips as she heard Yeowun's confident words. She wanted to add more to it so that Yeowun will be in more trouble, but she couldn't say after she met her eyes with Yeowun. The Lord might have felt something anyway, so it was best to leave it up to him. Humph. He hates his authority being challenged more than anything. He will show his discomfort in one way or another. That's when Left Guardian Lee Hemming knelt down in front of the Lord and shouted. I was a fool in failing to protect Prince Chun Yeowun, son of our great lord, from being attacked by the First Elder. Please punish me instead. What? Why? And with that, Hang Soyu and Jakinkang frowned. They didn't think Left Guardian would help Yeowun in such a situation. And with mentioning that Yeowun was a prince, it became weirder to blame Yeowun for defending himself. Why is Left Guardian helping him? Wait a minute. They then became dumbfounded. They didn't think much about guardians, but this kind of action was sure to prove that Left Guardian was helping Chun Yeowun. He even made Left Guardian be on his side? It was shocking. Everyone knew that Yeowun befriended Right Guardian Submang, as Submang was the teacher of Chun Yeowun. But if even left guardian Lee Hamming was with Yeowun, then Yeowun's forces were already too powerful. Damn it, there is no way. Chun Yeowun. For elders realized that the air around the Great Hall had already shifted. If without the help of neutral elders Mong-o, the 6th elder or Munyun the 8th elder, there was no way to press on Yeowun or way to stop him from becoming the heir. He is unstoppable. That was Mong-o's evaluation. He was neutral, but unlike other elders, he had a close relationship with 6 clans. This was because 6 clans were the actual leaders within the 6 clans. But he was astounded by what Chun Yeowun had shown him today. He's amazing. Even the Lord couldn't do much to those 6 clans. Mong-o thought maybe the cult might change starting from now. But with 4 clans remaining strong, he thought he needed to see how things will go. The Lord, who had been silent with a frown, then spoke. Rise, both of you. Jakinkang at Hang Soyu's face turned gloomy. If the Lord was telling these 2 men kneeling down to rise up, it meant the Lord was siding with them. This incident is caused by First Elder, so I will forgive you for what you did. Thank you, Lord, for your mercy. Chun Yeowun and Lee Hamming both bowed. With Lee Hamming jumping in, the situation had not gotten any more out of control. The Lord then looked at all the people and shouted. First Elder had paid its price for attacking the prince in front of everyone, so I will consider it solved. But you all must be aware that whoever committing crimes in this great hall is a direct challenge to my authority and will not be forgiven from now on. Yes, my lord. All clan leaders answered in unison. And Chun Yeowun, who was bowing down, became grim. It sounded like if the Lord was telling people, but he felt it as a warning to himself. So, he's telling me that there will no next time. And it was true. Chun Yujong thought that it was a good opportunity to press down on Chun Yeowun from this incident, but he couldn't find a reason to in front of every clan leader. It is as expected. He knew that the Lord will become wary of himself from this incident already. But Yeowun wished the Lord would show his concern to all, and Chun Yujong did not do this. A warning had been given. The Lord wasn't finished yet. Everyone, listen. Yes, my lord. I will declare. As the Lord said that, everyone became confused. For elders from 4 clans became concerned and turned to the Lord. I will now appoint my 7th son, Chun Yeowun, who have received 3 approvals from 3 elders and shown his worth, as the heir to the throne. Their concern was not misguided. The Lord was trying to declare Chun Yeowun as the heir. It was the moment that 4 clans wished never to happen. Is there any objection? There was no way for anyone to object in such a situation. Those who oppose, and those who sided with Yeowun both looked tense as they looked up to the Lord. Chun Yujong then shouted. From this time forward, Prince Chun Yeowun are now the heir of our great demonic cult. And with that, every clan leader from Chun Yeowun's forces got up with reddened face and shouted with rejoice. It was the first heir to the throne in 500 years who were not from 6 clans. Glory to the demonic cult! Woya! It was only time they were allowed to cheer and shout. Those from the 4 clans grimaced and looked down with a heavy look. The first war that started revolving around the heir was finished. It was Chun Yeowun's victory. Mother! Chun Yeowun clenched on his fist and enjoyed the moment. He then thought of his mother, Lady Hua. She were worried about Chun Yeowun even in her dying breath. But now Yeowun was the heir of the great demonic cult's throne. Next is you all. He had defeated Wise and Poison Clan. There were now Sword, Blade, Loyal and Lust Clan remaining. There were a lot of clans that sided with them still. With one big obstacle overcome, Yeowun was now at equals against them.